Every night at precisely 8 o'clock, the elevator doors opened onto the top floor of the glass tower, and the deaf millionaire stepped out into the soft glow of the penthouse restaurant. The place was elegant in a quiet, rehearsed way, white tablecloths without a single wrinkle, candles flickering like they were afraid to draw attention, and waiters moving with polished smiles. For most diners, the restaurant was about luxury. For him, it was about routine. He liked routine. Routine didn't require conversation. The maitre d' greeted him with a respectful nod, lips forming words he already knew by heart. "Good evening, sir. Your table is ready." The millionaire smiled faintly, reading the lips without effort, and returned the nod. His table was always the same, by the wide window overlooking the city. From there, he could watch traffic pulse like veins of light, a living thing that made no sound he could hear but still somehow felt alive. He sat alone, as he always did. The waiter placed the menu in front of him, though they both knew he wouldn't open it. The chef prepared his favorite dish every night without asking. It was easier that way. No awkward attempts at small talk. No exaggerated hand gestures. No pitying smiles. Just silence. Clean, predictable silence. People assumed he enjoyed being alone because he was rich. They were wrong. He watched couples lean toward each other, laughing. Business partners clinked glasses, mouths moving fast, confident. Families argued softly, then smiled again. To him, it all looked like a movie playing behind thick glass. He could see everything, understand some of it, but never fully step inside. Years ago, he had stopped trying. As his meal arrived, his reflection stared back at him from the window. A man in his early 40s, tailored suit, calm face, eyes that carried a tired sharpness. He picked up his fork, paused, and glanced again toward the reflection, only this time, something moved behind it. Down on the far end of the restaurant, near the service corridor, the cleaning crew had begun their late shift. They usually stayed invisible, waiting until guests left. Tonight, they were early. One cleaner stood out. She was a young woman, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion, pushing a small stroller with one hand while gripping cleaning supplies with the other. Her uniform was neat but worn, shoes scuffed from long hours. She kept her head down, eyes darting nervously, as if expecting someone to scold her at any moment. The stroller rocked gently as she worked. Inside it sat a baby, wide-eyed, alert, far too awake for the hour. The baby's fingers curled and curled, tiny hands tracing shapes in the air like they were trying to catch invisible strings. The woman nudged the stroller softly with her foot while wiping the floor, whispering silent apologies to everyone around her. Just tonight, her eyes seemed to plead. Just let me finish my shift. The millionaire watched carefully, not out of judgment, but recognition. He knew that look, the look of someone trying not to take up space. Someone hoping the world would overlook them just long enough to survive. The baby, however, had no such instinct. The child stared straight at the millionaire, unblinking. No fear, no hesitation. Just pure curiosity. The baby leaned forward, pressing both hands against the stroller edge, eyes bright as if they had discovered something fascinating. The millionaire froze mid-bite. Babies usually ignored him, or worse, stared and then looked away when adults redirected them. This one didn't. This one studied his face the way he studied lips, intently, thoughtfully. The woman noticed and quickly turned the stroller away, embarrassed. She mouthed, "Sorry," to no one in particular, cheeks flushing red. The baby let out a soft, soundless laugh, arms waving again. The millionaire didn't look away. For the first time that evening, he forgot about the food in front of him. He forgot about the city lights, the routine, the carefully built silence. His eyes followed the stroller as it moved across the floor, then slowed, then stopped. Something about the baby's hands caught his attention. They weren't random movements. They were trying to say something. And though he didn't yet know what it was, a strange feeling stirred in his chest, an unfamiliar tension, like the quiet before a door opens. The restaurant's rhythm shifted the moment it happened, though no sound announced it. 1 second, the cleaning lady was scrubbing the edge of the marble floor, her back turned. The next, the baby twisted, determined, and slid out of the stroller with a soft, clumsy thump onto the carpet. The woman didn't notice right away. The millionaire did. His eyes widened as the baby steadied itself on wobbling legs, using a nearby chair to balance. Tiny shoes scraped the floor as the child took one uncertain step, then another. The baby's gaze never left him, as if some invisible thread pulled them together. Around the room, waiters paused mid-step. A woman at a nearby table lifted her hand to her mouth. Someone leaned forward, ready to intervene. But no one moved. The baby toddled across the polished floor, arms outstretched for balance, a determined little frown etched across its face. Each step felt impossibly loud in the millionaire's chest, even though the room remained silent to him. His fork slipped from his fingers and clinked against the plate, something he felt more than heard. "Stop the child," a waiter mouthed to another. The cleaning lady finally turned. Her face drained of color. "Oh no." Her lips formed in panic as she dropped the cloth and rushed forward. Her hands shook as she reached out, already preparing herself for the reprimand, the apology, the consequences she couldn't afford. But the baby reached the table first. The child stopped directly in front of the millionaire and looked up, eyes wide and serious, like this was the most important task of their short life. The baby raised both hands. And then, slowly, deliberately, the baby began to sign. Not clean, not perfect, but unmistakable. A greeting, a clumsy attempt at hello. The world seemed to freeze. The millionaire's breath caught. His heart pounded so hard he felt it in his throat. His mind raced, rejecting what his eyes were showing him. Babies didn't sign. Not like that. Not unless someone had taught them. The baby signed again, small fingers bending awkwardly, wrists stiff with effort. The motion was uneven, but the intention was pure. Communication. Connection. The millionaire's eyes burned. His hands trembled as he pushed his chair back and slowly lowered himself to one knee in front of the child, bringing himself down to eye level. He raised his hands, hesitated for half a heartbeat, afraid he might be imagining it, then signed back. Hello. Perfect. Fluid. Gentle. The baby's face exploded into joy. A wide, toothy grin spread across its cheeks, and it bounced in place, clapping its hands before signing again, faster this time. The motions made no sense now, more emotion than language, but the meaning was clear. I see you. Tears blurred the millionaire's vision. Years collapsed into that moment. Years of polite nods, written notes, forced smiles. Years of people talking about him instead of to him. Years of silence that wasn't peaceful, just empty. And here, standing barefoot on a restaurant carpet, was a baby speaking his language without fear or hesitation. The cleaning lady reached them, breathless, tears spilling down her face. She dropped to her knees beside her child, hands fluttering frantically. As she signed an apology she wasn't even sure he would understand. Her lips moved too, whispering the same words over and over. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The millionaire looked up at her. He shook his head. Slowly, deliberately, he signed back. Not rushed, not sharp. Calm, reassuring. It's okay. The woman froze, stunned. She hadn't known. She hadn't realized he was deaf. She had only seen a wealthy man in an expensive suit. Now she saw his hands moving, his eyes soft, his expression open. Around them, the restaurant staff stood frozen, unsure whether to interrupt something sacred. No one dared to break the moment. The baby reached out and placed a small hand against the millionaire's cheek. That was when he broke. A single tear slipped free, then another. He didn't wipe them away. He didn't care who saw. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt spoken to, not with sound, but with meaning. In a room full of people, a baby had found him. And the silence was never the same again. The moment eventually ended, but its echo stayed behind, settling into the restaurant like warm light after sunset. The baby, finally tired, leaned back against the cleaning lady's shoulder, fingers still twitching as if reluctant to let the language go. The millionaire rose slowly from his knee, steadying himself against the table, his emotions still raw but glowing with something unfamiliar, hope. The manager approached first, face tight with concern, ready to enforce rules that suddenly felt too small. He opened his mouth to speak, then stopped, realizing words were useless here. Instead, he gestured awkwardly, asking if everything was all right. The millionaire smiled. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather notebook and pen, his usual bridge between his world and everyone else's. He wrote carefully, then turned the page around for the manager and the cleaning lady to see. Everything is more than all right. The cleaning lady's knees weakened. She clutched her child closer, still bracing herself for punishment, for loss. This job was everything to her. Without it, there would be no rent, no food, no safety. Her lips trembled as she tried to explain, mixing spoken words with broken signs, her fear spilling over. I had no one tonight. I didn't mean to disturb anyone. Please. The millionaire gently raised a hand, stopping her. He wrote again, slower this time. You didn't disturb my dinner. You saved it. The words hit her harder than any scolding could have. Tears fell freely now, streaking her cheeks as she nodded, unable to speak. The staff around them shifted, eyes damp, suddenly aware they were witnessing something that had nothing to do with money or policy. The millionaire turned his attention to the baby, who watched him with sleepy curiosity. He signed softly, thanking the child, even though he knew the baby wouldn't understand the words, only the warmth behind them. Then he stood straight and did something no one expected. He gestured for the manager to come closer and wrote a longer note, page after page. Instructions, questions, decisions made with certainty, not impulse. When he finished, he handed the notebook over. The manager's eyes widened as he read. A permanent position for the cleaning lady. A raise. Full benefits. Flexible hours. On-site childcare. The manager looked up, stunned. Sir, he began, then remembered and stopped himself. He nodded instead, deeply, respectfully. The cleaning lady shook her head in disbelief, hands flying as she signed frantically, asking if this was real, if she had misunderstood. The millionaire smiled again and signed back with calm assurance. Real. But he wasn't finished. In the weeks that followed, changes spread quietly through the building, rippling outward from that single moment. The millionaire funded free sign language training for restaurant staff and management, not as a gesture, but as a standard. Menus were redesigned with clear visuals. A small sign appeared at the entrance. Sign language welcome. Downstairs, an unused office was transformed into a bright daycare room filled with toys, soft mats, and warm colors. It wasn't charity. It was infrastructure, built to last. The cleaning lady no longer pushed a stroller in fear. She walked proudly, her head held high, her child safe and cared for nearby. She learned sign language properly this time, practicing every night, determined to honor the gift her baby had unknowingly given. As for the millionaire, his routine changed. He still arrived at 8. He still sat by the window. But now, the table was no longer a barrier, it was an invitation. Staff greeted him with signs, sometimes clumsy, sometimes confident, always sincere. He laughed more, his shoulders lighter. And every evening, just before dessert, the baby visited. Tiny hands waved enthusiastically, signing nonsense and joy in equal measure. The millionaire always signed back, patient and present, the loneliness he once carried replaced by something steady and warm. In a world that had assumed silence meant absence, one baby proved otherwise. The unthinkable wasn't that a child signed. The unthinkable was that a lonely man was finally seen, and chose to make sure no one around him would ever be unheard again.